Every day, hundreds of thousands of patrolmen report for duty, armed with a badge and the latest in video technology. You are about to witness their never-before-seen footage, their stories caught on tape. Now on Disorderly Conduct, a motorcycle goes one-on-one with a city bus. Gunfire erupts at a gas station. One of the most bizarre pursuits you will ever see.
See the chain link fence, it's unbelievable.
An officer comes across a life on the line.
You're right, somebody's in this truck.
And this guy tries to go undercover with underwear. With nothing to hide and lots to show, Disorderly Conduct is ready to take off.
Get out, car!
Is a high-speed motorcycle chase of a suspect wanted for assault with a deadly weapon, 245 on a police officer.
A 245. That's assault with a deadly weapon. In this case, a motorcycle.
This motorcycle has hit speeds in excess of 120 miles an hour.
The fleeing suspect tried to run over an officer at a mobile home park in Southern California.
Now he's picking up speed. We're showing airspeed now 100 knots. That means he's doing about 119 or 18 miles an hour right now. This is one of the most deadly, dangerous high-speed pursuits you can imagine.
The suspect races down freeways, weaving in and out of traffic.
Okay, now we're doing 110.
Back on surface streets, he rockets through intersections.
Obviously, he doesn't care about his own life. The problem is that the general public is out here and they can die. They can be hit by this guy.
Here, he narrowly misses a cop on a motorcycle.
So that illustrates the sheer stupidity of this suspect.
The chase continues from the air. Ground units fall back for public safety.
There he goes.
And then, the inevitable.
Down, suspect down, suspect down.
Down, but not out.
He's moving, he's still alive, but we don't know how. He hit a bus.
The first police officer on the scene quickly cuffs the dangerous man. And despite ramming into a bus, the suspect still puts up a fight.
He's now struggling. He's struggling with the police. He's actually fighting the police officer.
The man whose wild ride put so many lives at risk somehow managed to survive this violent crash. He was charged with evading police and assault with a deadly weapon.
Down, suspect down, suspect down.
A minivan takes off on I-75 near Bowling Green, Ohio, and the state police are in hot pursuit. Moments ago, the driver fired a gun at a local motor vehicle office after he illegally tried to get a driver's license. Now he's on the run, heavily armed and very dangerous. The suspect hit speeds over 100 miles an hour. Traffic gets tight and the suspect weaves, just missing a stopped car on the shoulder. The spike strips are dead ahead, and a nearby trucker decides to lend a hand. After missing the first strip, the 18-wheeler tries to force the van over to the next one. But the driver finds a way out. There must be a lot of CB chatter on the highway because another truck down the road also tries to help out, forcing the suspect onto the grassy median. More troopers join the chase as a third set of spike strips gets thrown out.
He did drive over the sticks. He drove over the sticks. Left side rear tire is flat.
With a flat tire, the minivan is forced to get off the highway.
He is going to get off. He's getting off at 103. He has exit at 103.
The driver pulls into a gas station where the nightmare is about to begin. It starts as a violent game of cat and mouse. Jumping curbs, then ramming a patrol car.
Finley, 437, I have been struck.
But the desperate gunman won't go without a fight. He opens fire with a handgun, and police shoot back. The heavily armed suspect is also carrying a .223 assault rifle. Off camera, he carjacks an occupied SUV. But before he can get away, all hell breaks loose. Officers fire 50 rounds and fatally wound the suspect during the wild and deadly gun battle. The passenger in the SUV escapes with minor injuries, and 2 officers are injured in the exchange of gunfire. Straight ahead on disorderly conduct. Officers finally get the upper hand and leg in this takedown. And a truck thief adds Grand Theft police car to his rap sheet. There's more disorderly conduct just down the road. Police are called to a home in Wiley, Texas, when a family squabble turns physical. The woman in the street says she and her mother got into a shoving and slapping match. But before officers can go inside to question the mother, the woman's boyfriend in the maroon car curses at the patrolman.
You know what? You need to hush for a second. Shut up. Just stop.
The man jumps from his car, and an officer stops him from leaving the scene.
Get back.
When the other policeman grabs his arm, the man resists. The officers wrestle with the belligerent man as his helpless girlfriend becomes hysterical. They get him in a headlock and lift him by one leg, finally throwing the 210-pound man to the ground. With one hand around the guy's head, the officer manages to call for backup. The officers cuff the man as the woman screams at him to stop fighting. The backup unit arrives. The additional officers help control the man so they can get the cuffs on him. Just when it looks like he's giving up, the irate man starts fighting again.
Calm down.
They finally cuff him and take him into custody.
I was trying to phone call, man.
That's not how police see it.
I told you to stay there and you get out. I expect you to listen to me.
No one is arrested for the mother and daughter scuffle. The combative man who fought with police is the only person going to jail. He's booked for assault, resisting arrest, and interfering with an officer. What starts as a misdemeanor taillight violation is now a felony pursuit. This biker in Fritz, Texas seems to think he can outrun police. As the officer calls for backup, the motorcycle hits 100 miles an hour. Going these speeds on 4 wheels is dangerous enough, but on 2, it's really tempting fate. To make matters worse, the guy on the bike is all of 17 years old, making this a recipe for disaster. As the rider races down Highway 136, the officer flips on his loudspeaker.
Get away! Pull over now!
When that doesn't work, the cop tries to appeal to the teen's conscience.
Pull over before you kill somebody like yourself!
But the biker continues to ignore both the officer and safety laws. Now several cruisers are on the chase, and troopers make plans to box him in. Then moments later, inexperience, speed, and a tight turn bring the biker down. The rider gets up, but not for long. After he's subdued, the teenager is charged with evading arrest. Maybe the reason he didn't stop was because he had 6 outstanding warrants, including another one for evading. But at least one officer at the scene has his own theory.
What was he running for? He's dumbass.
Police in Krugersville, Texas are on the lookout for a reckless driver in a blue pickup. They think they found their man in the parking lot of a fast food restaurant.
Interesting.
Yes, he is very interesting. Passing illegally. 71 County, you need to check one out of Texas and Oklahoma.
They don't have to wait for an ID check to find out they're dealing with a bad guy.
Hey man, get back over here!
The suspect jumps in the unmarked cruiser and peels out of the parking lot.
Get out of the car! Get out of the car!
Get in! Damn it. Good radio. Key it up. It's right here.
The cruiser swings onto the highway as the deputy calls it in.
Be advised, subject, we were just out with a stole my vehicle.
And he's putting a lot of road between them.
Why?
They think they spot their black Crown Vic way off in the distance.
The other head? Yeah. On Mother Point.
Other police units join the chase down the 2-lane Texas highway. An oncoming cruiser makes a quick U-turn and takes the lead in the pursuit. The guy continues his reckless driving. But this time, he's behind the wheel of a high-powered police vehicle. The brazen car thief stomps on the gas and roars off at over 100 miles an hour. The stolen cruiser is almost out of camera range when the suspect makes a high-speed left turn, or at least he tries to. The Crown Vic smashes into a metal fence, its front end mangled by the impact. The suspect runs, then drops to the ground as police rush at him, guns drawn. It turns out the blue pickup he was driving earlier was also stolen.
Get out of the car! Get out of the car!
Now the suspect faces 2 counts of car theft and evading arrest. Still to come on Disorderly Conduct. A stolen bus careens through the streets of Los Angeles.
Getting out of control. This bus is out of control.
And a joyride in a stolen car comes to a crashing end. We've got the action on Disorderly Conduct. It's a phrase you seldom hear. Grand theft bus. A TV helicopter reporter narrates the drama as a man who stole a bus leads the California Highway Patrol on a pursuit you have to see to believe.
Suspect now wanted for not only grand theft bus, but felony evasion.
The driver turns down LA's famed Sunset Boulevard as he endangers everyone in his path.
Suspect's crossing over the double yellow line, opposing traffic. Okay, he narrowly missed a vehicle.
Now he's on the freeway, and a private citizen apparently tries to play cop.
It appears, though, that man in the white truck tried to block his path, and the suspect didn't like it. Coming off the off-ramp here at Sunset Boulevard, he's out of the guardrail, knocked out the lights, smashing a vehicle, smashing another vehicle into the intersection, rear-end accident. He's going now without lights.
As he races through LA's ritzy West Side, the situation becomes more and more dire.
On the opposite side of traffic, there's some oncoming traffic. Oh my God, this is very dangerous. He can kill somebody. He's now moving, okay, narrowly missing 3 automobiles, 5 automobiles.
Suddenly, on the next turn, he starts to lose it.
High rate of speed. He's now skidding out. He's skidding out of control. This bus is out of control.
The drama gets even more bizarre when the bus crashes through a chain-link fence.
He's crossed over a chain barrier. He's now captured that chain. That is like a flying guillotine, now sparking in the light. Looks like a rocket racing in the night.
Now an incredible scene as the bus swings by officers.
You can see the chain link fence swinging. Okay, strikes a patrol unit. Loses the chain from underneath the truck. It's unbelievable.
It's obvious this bus trip has to come to an end. But first, there's a freeway fireworks show. And this time, when the driver exits, there's no way out.
This is a cul-de-sac. It's going to dead end. The driver has nowhere to go now.
Suddenly, the driver hits the brakes, and the helicopter reporter is on top of it all, both literally and figuratively.
Wait a minute, he's backing up. He's backing up. He's hitting the highway patrol units like toys. They're smashing up like toys. Okay, we're hearing shots fired. Shots are now being fired at the suspect. He's backing up into the officer's path. Wait a minute, up on the curb. Okay, into a house. The man has struck the garage portion of a home. Shots have been fired. Looks like the pursuit is over with.
Finally, after an itinerary that includes crashes, sparks, and a flying fence, the bus reaches its final destination. After a standoff, heavily armed officers yank the man from the bus and arrest him for attempted murder.
Okay, the suspect is out of the bus, on the ground. He is now being handcuffed by the California Highway Patrol.
In the end, 3 people are hurt, including 2 police officers who suffered minor injuries when their squad cars were rammed. But all involved know this could have been worse. Much worse.
It's unbelievable. It could kill somebody.
A man enters a hotel in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. It's just after 4 a.m. as he stops to chat with the night clerk. The man reeks of alcohol, so the clerk is cordial, but not overly talkative. She goes about her business as he walks to his room. About 20 minutes later, he returns to the lobby. He tells the clerk that he's having trouble sleeping, but he's not really interested in conversation. The surveillance tape reveals an object in the man's left hand, a tire iron. The man takes one last look around the lobby. They're alone. He bashes the clerk in the face with the tire iron, then jumps over the counter and strikes her again. The terrified woman lunges at her attacker, trying to block the blows. But she's no match for the crazed man, who continues to beat her with the tire iron even after she collapses to the floor. As he makes his getaway, he stops to wipe his fingerprints from the counter, but leaves the tire iron behind. The injured clerk staggers to her feet and calls 911, while her attacker runs to his car and drives away. The woman suffered extensive facial injuries from the savage attack, along with numerous bruises all over her body. The man who beat a defenseless hotel clerk with a tire iron turned himself in the next day. He claimed he was drunk and could offer no motive for the attack. A judge called the vicious beating a cold-blooded and senseless attack and sentenced him to the maximum, 10 years in prison. Police pull over 3 teens at a gas station to check a broken headlight. But they're not stopping. Turns out this Ford Taurus was stolen. And the suspects peel out, hitting over 70 miles an hour. The driver twists and turns down the quiet suburban streets just outside Detroit, Michigan, hitting puddles and kicking back all sorts of debris at the trooper's squad car. The suspects cross double lines, cut a few corners, and dangerously fly through several stop signs to shake the cops. But the officers, hot on their tail, so close, in fact. Without warning, the driver slams on the brakes, and the patrol car rams the Taurus into a nearby house. The driver bails. The officers take up the chase off camera and eventually make the bust. After racing through residential streets well over the speed limit, the backseat passenger managed to escape. Both the driver and front seat passenger are taken into custody and charged in juvenile court. Moments away on disorderly conduct, an officer risks his life to save a trapped driver, and a trooper literally dodges a bullet when an armed suspect opens fire. It's all next on Disorderly Conduct.
Where are we at here? I-10 and...
A life is on the line in Deer Park, Texas.
We're still at 610.
Officer Del Wilcoxon is on his way to pick up a prisoner when he comes across this horrific 3-car crash caused by a suspected drunk driver.
There's a major accident here at 610. Vehicle fire. There's 3 vehicles involved.
The 8-year veteran keeps his cool as he gets out of his squad car to investigate.
My first concern was to make sure that all the individuals involved in the accident were safe.
But the officer learns that everyone is not accounted for.
Somebody's in this truck.
A man is trapped between the pickup on the right side and a retaining wall. Fire rages from the wreckage. You can hear the car combusting, and a full-on explosion could be moments away.
Undo your seatbelt.
The officer knows he has a life to save. Officer Wilcoxon rushes to the pickup and finds the still conscious driver.
You okay? Yeah, I'm fine.
I believe at that time he was possibly in a state of shock.
The officer talks to the driver through his partially open window.
Can you break that window and crawl out?
Since Officer Wilcoxon is wedged between the pickup and the wall, he doesn't have the leverage to break the window. So he hands over his flashlight.
Here, take my flashlight and try to break the window. Be careful. Okay.
The sound of breaking glass means the driver is out, but there's a 40-foot drop under that guardrail.
Be very careful. Hold on, be careful, okay? Do not fall.
I advised him to straddle the guardrail. Once he straddled the guardrail, I was able to grab him by his chest area and pull him free from the burning vehicle.
Okay, we got you, buddy.
In the end, all three vehicles are completely destroyed in the inferno. But thanks to Officer Wilcoxon, no lives are lost. A man claiming to have a gun robs 2 motels within 10 minutes in Tampa, Florida. Police across the city respond to a sighting of the getaway car. The cruisers weave their way through traffic as they rush to catch up with the suspect. His dark sports car appears to be trapped at a busy intersection. Then it jumps the median and cuts through a gas station. The cruisers follow him up and over the median and are right back on his tail. There's open road ahead, but the suspect doesn't race off. He may have lost his will for a high-speed chase, but officers can't take a chance. A cruiser pulls up alongside, then executes the precision immobilization technique, the pit maneuver. The car spins out and heads into the curb. The dash cam in a second cruiser picks up the action as the car chase ends in a cloud of dust. And the foot race ends with a flying tackle. The suspect makes a run for it, but is quickly ensnared in the long and strong arms of the law. Police charge the suspect with 2 counts of robbery, plus fleeing and attempting to elude police. He's taken into custody just 8 minutes after the second motel robbery. A fast and injury-free end to this crime spree. It's early Sunday morning in Fayette County, Ohio. A trooper pulls over a suspected drunk driver. There's no way he can know that the man has an extensive criminal history.
One stopped you. For one, it's like 50 left to center.
As the driver steps out, his female passenger remains in the vehicle.
Come on back here. Come on, stop, hey.
The trooper notices that the man acts suspiciously, so he decides to pat him down.
It's short, bro. Go on there. Can we short? Where's that? Right here. Tell you what, man. Go put your hands up here. Put your hands up there. That's what I'm doing. I'm just going to pat you down.
Suddenly, the driver lunges at the trooper. The officer's hat is thrown to the ground as he struggles with the suspect. The driver draws a pistol, and it falls to the ground. The man then retrieves his gun and fires at the trooper. The bullet barely misses the officer, and the life-or-death struggle continues. Finally, the trooper is able to get to his service weapon. Feeling he has no choice, he shoots the suspect and brings the struggle to an end. The officer calls for backup. Then he secures the passenger and begins to render first aid to the man who tried to kill him. The entire episode lasts less than 2 minutes. It's later learned that the driver was under indictment for 12 counts of cocaine trafficking, as well as various weapons charges. As for the officer, he's understandably shaken but not hurt. When disorderly conduct returns,
He's going in a cornfield.
police comb a cornfield looking for a pickup on the run. And it takes troopers a while to catch up with this speeding SUV, but they do. There's more disorderly conduct headed right at you. A pickup in Beatrice, Nebraska takes off when police try to alert the driver that his rear taillights are out.
We're now turning onto Highway 4, headed north on Highway 4.
They were only going to issue him a fix-it ticket, but not anymore.
I'm now out of the city limits. Speeds are now 70 to 80 miles an hour.
The pickup barrels down the country road. Luckily, there's no other traffic on the highway.
Vehicles all over the road. Suspect vehicle has gone off and onto the shoulder several times, crossed the center line several times.
The pursuit moves off the highway and onto a side road. Another police unit moves in from the opposite direction.
He's going in a cornfield.
Police race to encircle the field and box him in. One of the officers spots the pickup and rams it with his cruiser. The suspect puts the truck in reverse and floors it. The officer runs after him and fires at his tires. The pickup makes it back onto the road with the cruisers right behind him.
Headed back to Highway 4.
One of the tires is blown
He's on the rim right now.
as he leads officers down a gravel road.
Can we go too much further?
The suspect tries a familiar tactic to elude police.
He's in a cornfield now.
The cruisers comb the field. The night sky and the flying dust make it difficult to locate the dark pickup. But they find it. The suspect then backs into the cruiser and tries to run again. The suspect refuses to comply, and the officer throws him down.
Get on the ground!
The suspect was sentenced to 180 days in jail for driving under the influence and flight to avoid arrest.
What are you running for? Why are you running? What are you guys chasing me?
You didn't have any taillights. You would have ended up with a fix-it ticket because you didn't have any taillights. You decided to run.
A traffic stop for a turn signal violation escalates into a high-speed pursuit in Salt Lake City, Utah. The chase moves onto the interstate just as rush hour traffic starts to build. The Jeep suddenly moves from the left to the right lane and appears headed for an exit.
Looks like he might be taking 33rd, not sure.
But just as quickly, he cuts back.
Salt Lake 382. He did not take 3300 south off ramp. We're still southbound I-15.
A few miles up ahead, officers are ready with their spike strips. If the spike strips don't bring this chase to a quick end, officers will try to pit the SUV. The suspect needs to keep driving straight in order to hit the spike strips.
Okay, Salt Lake 382, he's from the far right-hand lane. He could possibly take 5300 south.
But once again, he decides to stay on the interstate. Motorists respond to the sirens and flashing lights by slowing down or stopping completely, creating an obstacle course for the suspect and police.
We're in the emergency lane. He's weaving in and out of traffic. headed over to the middle of the freeway. Now we're in the HOV lane.
That HOV lane is exactly where officers want him. Their spike strips are set, but the suspect spots the first one and swerves around it.
Salt Lake 322, he's avoided the spikes. We're still southbound 15, went over into the middle part of the lane.
He sees the second trap just ahead and moves far to the right before the officer can throw his strip. But just seconds after dodging the spikes, the suspect is nailed with a pit.
We just spun out.
The Jeep crashes into the concrete barrier and plows head-on into the cruiser. The suspect is arrested for fleeing the police. He's also hit with numerous drug charges after he admits using cocaine and swallowing a balloon filled with heroin during the chase. Next up on Disorderly Conduct. An armed and dangerous suspect rams, then rips his way past police. And this thief in a candy store has more than just sweets on his mind. We've got you covered on Disorderly Conduct. Lake County, Florida sheriffs try to stop this white Honda for a minor traffic violation, but the driver refuses to pull over. Since it's only a minor violation, the supervisor tells his man to back off the chase and turn around. The deputy's about to make a U-turn when the driver pulls onto the median.
He decided to stop. He's not cooperating. He's in the vehicle. Windows up, radio fires. You hear me? Put your hands out the window. Throw your keys out the window. Driver, roll your window down. Stop chat.
The car fits the description of a vehicle used in a kidnapping, and officers work to assess the situation.
At this point, you should have felony charges, is that correct?
He's got Cell 31 out of New York.
Weapons or battery charges?
To complicate matters, the officers can't see into the car.
Can you tell me your picture inside?
Still moving around over there, Captain?
Troopers prepare for the worst, and a call goes out to stop traffic in both directions.
1385, whatever he's doing, also be prepared with stop sticks.
The eerie standoff continues for a full 41 minutes before officers finally decide to take action. Officers provide armed coverage for the deputy as he moves to conceal himself behind the trunk of the car. With the stop sticks in place, an officer shoots multiple rounds of pepper balls through a crack in the rear window. Hoping to sting the suspect out of the car. Additional rounds are then fired into the air conditioning vents. Suddenly, the driver speeds off. The stop sticks push deep into the sandy soil and fail to puncture the suspect's tires. Squad cars race after the driver, but up ahead, a second round of sticks strike the Honda. Finally, the suspect's car comes to a rest in the middle of an intersection. Officers smash out the windows and draw their weapons as they get their first look at the driver. Sergeant Hornsby returns his gun to his holster and draws his taser. The driver makes a motion toward the glove compartment, and the sergeant fires the taser.
After I deployed the taser, I moved around to the driver's side, and that's when I realized it was a white female.
As officers case the car with their weapons drawn, the stunned driver is apprehended off camera. Her reason for not responding to officers?
She just said that God made her do it.
Fortunately, the situation was controlled without lethal force. As for the suspect, she is charged with fleeing to elude, felony criminal mischief and resisting with violence. Police in Seminole County, Florida, spot a reportedly stolen Cadillac. Since the caddy was allegedly carjacked at gunpoint, the driver is considered armed and dangerous. It looks to be a short chase when the suspect gets trapped behind two SUVs at a stoplight. But he wedges the caddy between them and pushes hard until one of the SUVs moves out of his way. He drops into reverse and rams one cruiser, then throws it into drive, ripping and scraping his way past a second patrol car. The chase moves on to the interstate, then back to city streets. The lead patrol car moves into position for a pit maneuver. The caddy spins out and smacks into one of the cruisers. When officers pull the suspect from the crash, they find a fully loaded handgun in his pocket. The suspect was charged with aggravated battery with a motor vehicle, fleeing and attempting to elude police, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Security cameras in this Kansas candy shop are about to catch an unusual late-night break-in. A young man gains entrance by pushing open a door blocked by a refrigerator. And yes, his disguise of choice is a pair of women's underwear on his head. Other cameras watch as the kid in the candy store helps himself to the cash register. Since this is a small shop, there's not much money in the drawer. But maybe all he needs is enough to buy a more expensive disguise. It turns out, the guy with the odd mask also has a sweet tooth. Since on his way out, he grabs a couple of slabs of chocolate pecan fudge. But in the end, his fashion statement doesn't bring sweet success. The suspect is arrested several days later and charged with burglary.
Cherry Sunday.